get it stuck onto the wheel head. You want it is in the center to start as you can get it. And you can use anything. You can use those rings around the outside to kind of tell you where the center is. And just sort of pat it on there too. Make sure it's nice and stuck on there. You don't want it to come off. If you have any water that gets between the clay and the wheel head, that can kind of just slide right off.
Do you put like an X of water or no water?
Don't put any water because it'll slide off the,
oh, wow.
the wheel.
Okay.
If you get that, once it's stuck on there, then you're gonna use the water.
Yeah.
But before it's stuck on there, don't get any water because it'll just slide right off.
Okay.
So speaking of water, now that it's stuck on there, now's when we're gonna get the wheel spinning, get it wet. And the first step is centering. I'm gonna use just kind of the inside of my palm here, and I'm just gonna hold it in one spot. I'm gonna brace my arm kind of on my leg here. And that way I can, it's braced on my body, I can just lean into it with my body weight and start to get it centered. And as I lean into it, it's going to start to get taller. So when you press in on it, it's going to move the clay up. So you're also going to want to press down from the top. If you press down, it's going to move the clay down. So you want to kind of find that area that's right in the medium amount of pressure where you're pressing in on the side and pressing down on top. On top, I'm kind of using like just this area of my hand here. Well, the idea is as it's spinning, you're holding your hands nice and steady and still, and leaning on it. As the wheel head starts to spin around, it's going to pull itself centered.
As long as you have your hand there. Right?
Yeah, as long as it's nice and steady. Kind of think of it like, if this was like a robot doing this, and this robot arm came in. It was just like, you're kind of doing the same thing with your hand. So I'll knock it off one more time just so you can see. I'm just going to kind of come into it and gently start easing into it. And as I sit here and hold my hands still, the wheel's going to kind of pull itself centered. So just take your time getting it centered at first, and I'll help you today. Just because that way you can start to get throwing. You don't have to worry. Like you spend half the class centering, you'll be able to start throwing it. So anyways, after you've got it centered, you're going to make the hole in it, and I'm going to use my left hand to kind of make the hole, but I'm holding it steady with my right hand. This is just whatever fingers feel right to you. It doesn't you're going to use different fingers and hand positions on different size amounts of clay. So a tiny little piece like this, and I'm just going to kind of press it down and hold it with my hand to keep it centered. You can get some of that water out of the bottom using the sponge. You don't want to let a bunch of water just sit in there. You can lead to cracks later. So now I'm going to open it up. Just by, just kind of by pulling back straight back towards myself. And I'm going to smooth off the inside a little bit. So it's a little more level in there. And here now I'm going to just start to apply some pressure on the inside. On the outside, I'm just going to start lifting this straight up. I want to keep a cylinder. I don't want to go out with it. I want to try to be more in a cylinder shape. The reason being is once you go out, it's a lot harder to get it to go back in. So I start with a cylinder and then I'll shape that cylinder into what I want. In this case, it's going to be a cylinder because we're making a cup. So just going to pull it up. And the same thing for a bowl you would do. Do this the same way, except once you have your cylinder at a certain height, then you're going to widen it out and shape it into a bowl. But here we're doing a cup. We're just going to go straight up. At this point, I've slowed the wheel down just a little bit. I don't want it spinning as fast as when I was centering it. And you do have to let the wheel turn around enough times. You see that I've got the wheel spinning somewhat fast, and that allows me to move my hands around on the pot a little faster. But if you're having the wheel go really slow, you also need to move your hands, which I recommend when you're starting. When you're shaping it, you probably want it spinning more around this speed or so.
A little slower?
Yeah.
I know that was a
so
little
I'll do it at that speed. So I'll slow it down, but see, now on this pull, I got to spend a lot more time because I don't want to move my hands any faster than the wheel's turning. if you move your hands up here faster than that wheel head's turning, you're going to get one wall that's thicker than the other, and one's going to be thinner than the other. Because it won't have had enough time to kind of turn through your hands and even out. So you got to just hang around long enough to let the clay work its way up. You can always go slower than the wheel head's turning, but if you go faster, see how fast this is turning? If you go any faster than that, it's going to you're going to get one wall is going to be off. So you just really want to, you're better off just really taking your time and going kind of slow. So that's pretty much about as many pulls as I would give this thing. I'm going to do one more just to shape it. I'm not really like lifting up as much on this one. So then I'm going to use like one of these wooden knife tools to cut away just a little bit of this clay at the bottom. Start to help shape its profile. Cut a little beveled edge there for the foot of it. Just kind of help separate the cup so it doesn't just like run straight into the wheel head. It's got a little kind of an undercut there.
That looks scary. Right?
So, if you want your finger marks or something in there, you can leave the finger marks. I want to smooth out this edge and just have like a smooth, flat edge. So I'm just going to pull it into the rib here. And that's all the cup is a little simple cylinder. I'm going to go back and...
She's like, I
No,
know better.
no elaborate say.
I'll play with this stuff now.
I'm going to go back and clean up the foot there one more time, just because some of the clay got moved back under it. And then, so one thing that's kind of nice to do on a cup is give it this little beveled edge right here at the end. That just gives your lip somewhere to sit on the side of the cup. You can just kind of round it off, smooth it off with the sponge. Here, I'll show you a little. You haven't seen this one yet. So.
That's beautiful. She's just don't wait a minute.
So we've got some different ribs over there. Some have wider forks. I think there's like a fork, but you can texture whatever you're doing, by just kind of running this around in it. Just gonna move it real slowly and start to give it a little design. And then I'll just kind of help round it back out again since it got pushed around a little bit. Then we'll use the wire tool. Use it for a wiggly looking one. Thank you. So on something I'm not going to trim, this cup I'm not going to trim. Just because you can trim a cup, but I don't really like to deal with trimming cups because it's like a taller thing when you flip it over and you're working on it. It's just bowls are nice to trim. I don't really like trimming my cups. So I use this wiggle wire thing. It's just like a spring that's been stretched out. And holding it tight, you don't want to be all loose because you'll just cut right through your pot. You want to hold it tight with your thumbs on top. And that way you can cut it off. And you just kind of pick it up.
Jelly, you gotta pick that up.
Pretty gently.
Yeah, I bet.
Want to have like even pressure so
I'm
that
stressed for you.
want to have really even pressure so that it stays in a round shape. Yeah. Also, we have these pot lifters here. See those metal?
Oh, okay.
You can kind of. I recommend using this as you're learning. Just
Yeah.
to
That was more so
carefully lift
stressful.
it up with one of these.
Yeah.